ونصلي على رسوله الكريم. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي واجعل لي وزيرا من أهلي. ربي يسر ولا تعسر وتمم بالخير وبك نستعين يا فتاح. ربي زدني علما. ربي هب لي حكما وألحقني بالصالحين. ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار. يا أول الأولين يا آخر الآخرين يا ذا القوة المتين يا راحم المساكين يا أرحم الراحمين. حسبنا الله ونعم الوكيل. اللهم إنا نجعلك في نحورهم ونعوذ بك من شرورهم. اللهم منزل الكتاب سريع الحساب اهزم الأحزاب. اللهم اهزمهم وزلزلهم. آمين يا أرحم الراحمين. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Alhamdulillah, by the grace and tawfiq of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, today we are going to talk about ayah number 154 of Surah Al Imran, and we will listen to the recitation and go over the word by word meaning first. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajeem. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim.
ثم أنزل عليكم من بعد الغم أمنة نعاسا يغشى طائفة منكم وطائفة قد أهمتهم أنفسهم يظنون بالله غير الحق ظن الجاهلية يقولون هل لنا من الأمر من شيء قل إن الأمر كله لله يخفون في أنفسهم ما لا يبدون لك يقولون لو كان لنا من الأمر شيء ما قتلنا هاهنا قل لو كنتم في بيوتكم لبرز الذين كتب عليهم القتل إلى مضاجعهم وليبتلي الله ما في صدوركم وليمحص ما في قلوبكم والله عليم بذات الصدور.
Okay, in this ayah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, Thumma, then. So it's continuing from the previous ayah, the commentary from the Battle of Uhud. It's from after the Battle of Uhud, it's continuing there. So here Allah ta'ala is saying, Thumma, then, Anzala, he sent down, alaykum, ala and kum. So ala is upon, kum is all of you. Then he sent upon all of you, mim ba'dil ghammi, mim ba'di from after, gham. And we talked about that in the previous ayah, gham, that Allah Ta'ala gave them gham upon gham, right? Like the distress, some distress that like takes over a person, that covers the person and everything. After the distress, Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala sent upon the believers, he sent upon them amanatan, tranquility, peace, security, nu'asan, and slumber. Nu'asan is like a light sleep, a nap, like a state of slumber in which like a person has a light nap, like while sitting, for example. Let's say somebody's sometimes when you're sitting, let's say somebody's waiting at the airport for a long time and you have a phone in your hand and you feel like you didn't really sleep in a very deep sleep, but you just almost fell asleep and the phone just slipped out of your hand, right? It's almost like or it slipped out of your hand or just slipped, and then it's like, oh, then you just wake up. Okay, so that very light sleep, yaghsha, overcoming, ta'ifatam minkum. Yaghsha, it overcame, ta'ifatun, ta'ifa is a group, minkum, from amongst you. So amongst all the Muslims that were there in the Battle of Uhud. And this is a commentary of the time when this is what is happening at the time when battle had stopped for some time and the Muslims had gathered around the Prophet and they were trying to consolidate their position at that time and everything, right? So then at that time, slumber, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent down tranquility, peace, amana, and nu'asan upon the believers, and from a group of believers it overcame them. وَطَائِفَةٌ, and while a group, meaning the other group, so one group this happened, and another group, قد certainly ahammatuhum. Hum is worry, when you worry about something, right? So there is also a dua that we say, that one of the sunnah dua is Allahumma inni a'udhu bika min al hammi wal huzni. That we are asked, Allah Ta'ala taught us through the Prophet ﷺ, that to seek refuge in hum and huzn. Hum is worry, anxiety, worrying about something, and huzn is sadness about something, depression about something, right? So a certain group, if they were worried, and what were they worried about? Anfusuhum, about themselves. Nafs is singular of a nafs, about self. Anfus is a plural. So anfusuhum, their own selves. They were worried about their own selves. Yadunnuna, they were thinking, billahi, about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, ghayral haqqi, something other than the truth. They were other than what is correct. They were thinking, they were having these thoughts in their mind about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which was not correct. And what kind of thoughts were they? Vanna, the thought, al jahiliya, the thought of the time of ignorance, the thought of the time of jahiliya. Yaquluna, they were saying. So this is what they were thinking. Allah Ta'ala tells us what certain group was thinking. Now, and then he says what they were saying. Yaquluna, they were saying, Hallana, is there for us min al amri, from the matter, min shay'in, anything? Meaning, like, is there any, like, do we have any say in the matter? Right. So that's what they're saying. Like, okay, is anybody listening to us? Is anybody, like, do we have any say in this matter? What is going on and everything? Like, so basically what they're saying is, why am I not being given importance? Why are you not asking, taking my opinion about things? That's what they're saying. Qul, say. Now the Prophet ﷺ is being told to say, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying to the Prophet ﷺ, Qul, say, Innal amra, indeed the matter, kullahu, all of it, lillah, is for Allah. The matter, all of the matter is for Allah. Yukhfuna, they hide. Khafi, something that is hidden, right? So yukhfuna, what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us is what is there. Yukhfuna, they hide, fi anfusihim, in themselves, ma la yubduna lak, what they do not reveal to you, right? So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling the Prophet ﷺ to say this, and they say, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is also telling the believers and the Prophet ﷺ that they hide in themselves, meaning their thoughts, their feelings, whatever, they hide in themselves what they do not reveal to you. But obviously Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows it, and he's telling. Yaquluna, they say, Law kana, if it was, lana, for us, min al amri, from the matter, shay'un, anything. Like, if it was up to us, meaning if the matter was up to us, if you had listened to us, ma qutilna, we would not have been killed hahuna, here. We would not have been killed here. If you had listened to us, this would not have happened. If you had basically what they were referring to us, if you had listened to us, and we had not come out here in Uhud to fight, and we had stayed in Medina, then this, we would not have been killed. Like, so many of our people are killed, this would not have happened, right? Kul, say, the Prophet ﷺ is being told to say, Law kuntum, if you were, fi buyutikum, in your houses, la baraza, surely would have come out, alladhina kutiba, for those on whom was decreed, alayhim, upon them, for those on whom it was decreed, al qatlu, the death, ila madaji'ihim, their places, towards their places of death. Madaji, mim, dad, jim, and ain. Right? Madaji is used for a place to sleep, right? And here it is being used for, and sleep is a twin of death. Here it is used in the sense of a place of death, meaning those people who were, if death was written for somebody, even if you were in your homes, you would have come out to the exact place where the death was written for you. وَلِيَبْتَلِيَ, and that Allah, that might test, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala might test. So why did this happen? Why did this Uhud happen and all this happen? So that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala might test ma fi sudurikum, what is in your chests, what is in your breasts, meaning what is in your hearts. وَلِيُمَحِّصَ, so that he may purge ma fi qulubikum, what is it, he may take out, he may clean what is in your hearts. Wallahu, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, alimun, he is all aware, bidatis sudur, what is in the chests, right? So in this ayah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying basically that then after the grief, what happened was, after the grief that they went through, Allah, then after the grief, he poured tranquility over you, a drowsiness that overtook a group of you. And another group, however, was worrying about their own selves. They were harboring thoughts about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that were untrue, thoughts of ignorance. And they were saying, is there anything in our hands? Say to them, the whole thing belongs to Allah. They conceal in their hearts what they do not disclose to you. They say, if we had any say in the matter, we would not have been killed here. Say, if you were in your own homes, and those destined to be killed would have come out all the way to their final resting places. All this was done so that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala may test your inner qualities and He may purify what is in your hearts. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is all aware of what lies in the hearts. Right. So in this ayah, first of all, this is a commentary on the Battle of Uhud for what is happening, and these were revealed after the Battle of Uhud. But in this, there are life lessons for all of us. And that's for the whole of Quran, right? The lessons that are there in Quran are there for all of us and for all times. And Subhanallah, every time that somebody would read it, every time we connect with the Quran, it gives us something more. And to our current situation. That's one of the miracles of the Quran. So when we look at the Quran, when we study any ayat of the Quran, one thing is, what are the lessons that I'm going to take for myself? What are the lessons that you are going to take for yourself? And if we come to the Quran with an open heart and then, Ya Allah, I'm here to learn, then inshallah, Allah Ta'ala will give us more and more and more every single time that we come. Okay. So in this ayah, what is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala telling us? First thing is, those people who put their put their worries and put their stresses in the hands of Allah, and then start on the work of the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala takes care of their He takes care of their distresses. He takes care, and He's telling us, look how I take care of the distresses. When somebody is distressed, somebody is on the path of my deen, and he's encountering certain distress and everything for that, which can and will happen to all of us. Then something like a gham, something that is, like a ghamama is the clouds. And what do clouds do? The clouds, they come over a person, and they come over and they hide the sunshine, right? The clouds, when there are a lot of clouds, and you can't see the sunshine anymore. It just covers the light and everything. So similarly, gham, when gham comes on a person, when they're distressed, when they have this gham, it comes on the heart, and then the heart feels like the light seems to be hidden, and you can't you feel like constricted, you feel like sad, you feel distressed, right? That's what happens. And but Allah Ta'ala saying, look how I remove those from you. And how and Allah Ta'ala gives us an example what He did that at Battle of Uhud is that after such a big gham, after such a big, so many Sahabas are being martyred. The Prophet ﷺ has been rumored to be killed, and the some Sahabas are running from the battlefield, and the Prophet ﷺ is calling them, and yet they're not even turning back to listen and everything, right? And they are so much in a panic mode that they don't even, like, nothing is registering. There's so much panic everywhere and everything. And a battle that was once looked like it was won totally, now the tables are turning, and we are in a loss and everything, and a big loss at that. Like very renowned Sahabas have been killed, and not just killed, their bodies have been mutilated, and a lot of vulgar things are being done and everything. And then, but what happened then, as the Muslims were trying to regroup, and the Prophet ﷺ was safe and everything. There's dialogues that has happened, like between Umar radiallahu anhu and Abu Sufyan, and these things happened. What did Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala do? After such a big gham, such a big distress, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave the Muslims, the Sahabas, amana. And how did He give them amana? Amana is like the rest, peace, tranquility, sukoon of the heart, right? And they say the biggest treasure of a believer is the sukoon of the heart. No matter what happens, he has the sukoon. He doesn't go overboard in happiness and do things which are displeasing to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And a believer also doesn't go into depression when when some things don't go their way or anything, just because they know that there is our Rabb, right? And that sukoon that comes from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is only from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Like even later in the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says about the mother of Musa that to to put an infant child of yours into the raging river of Nile in a basket, and when there are soldiers all around to kill that child, and the stream is going towards The stream is flowing towards the palace of the pharaoh, towards the place where these elites live, and those elites are trying to kill the babies. And the baby looks like, obviously it'll have the features of, it looks like the other group of people. So to put that baby there, just because Allah Ta'ala told um, the mother of Musa to, it was a hard thing to do. But then what does Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala say about the mother of Musa? He held her heart. Right? Even in the most difficult situation, which seemed like anybody else would break down in that situation and run after the baby, my baby, Allah Ta'ala held her heart and she was able to stay quiet, right? Because Allah Ta'ala told her that I will reunite you to your baby, right? So the rest and the peace and the tranquility comes from Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala. When somebody is in the middle of hardships and the rest and the tranquility comes, this is from Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala. And that is the biggest, that's a huge blessing, right? And how did Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala give this to the people there? Through Nu'asan, right? Nu'asan, what is Nu'asan? Nu'as is a light sleep, a nap, a state of slumber, right? And a group of the Muslims, what happened is the help of Allah came and they had this small nap. And in the battle of Uhud, while they were in the battlefield, these Sahabas who were tired, who were hurt, enemies in front of them, right? There is a situation of war. Like this, there is a situation. Yes, they're retreating, but we don't know if they can come back. Everybody is dispersed here and there. They could come back and attack anytime, right? So we don't know what is going to happen. It's like you can say it's still an emergency situation. It's still the code red, right? And these are the soldiers on the ground, and in the middle of the battle, in the battlefield, these soldiers are feeling drowsy on their rides, like they're on their horse or their whatever, and they have swords in their hand and they're feeling drowsy, right? And they're feeling having this stuff. It's almost like there's an emergency situation in a building. Let's say there's some attack or something, and there's an emergency situation. The security guard outside, he's like, he looks at that and everything. He just has a little nap. It doesn't happen unless there is, because this is a time to be on a very, very high alert. Like the adrenaline in the body is very, very high, right? But at that very moment, Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala, when they are like super sad and distressed and everything, and there's a lot of fear as well that enemy might attack anytime, Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala put upon them, they drowsed. They were just like feeling sleepy. And like Abu Talha radiallahu anhu, he even remarked that I was one of those people who were overcome by the sleep. And what happened was the sword kept slipping from my hand. I had a sword in my hand, it kept slipping from my hand, and I would pick it up and everything. And then like it was almost like while standing, you're almost like sleeping, right? And so it happens like to us as well. Like when we are, is the kind of sleep that people can have, like let's say in a classroom. Like you can sit, you can be sitting and then you can still be dozing off. Or when you're really, really tired and you sit and then you can be dozing off, right? So it's that kind of a sleep. And it's a very short sleep, but it is a sleep in which what it does is, it makes a person fresh. We can think of it as like a power nap, right? And what that sleep also does is it removes fear from the hearts, right? So for example, like about this kind of sleep, let's say that if somebody is overcome by this kind of a sleep while they're praying their salah or by reading the Quran, then this is either because of overeating or because of shaitan, right? That we feel this sleep when doing when either we are reading during our salah or reading the Quran and everything, because of that, because physical reason, something like overeating, we haven't had enough sleep or something, or because of waswasa from the shaitan. But when it is in the battlefield, if somebody feels that in the battlefield, when there is enemy all around, there's panic all around, and somebody's in the path of Allah Subhanahu wa Taala, there is, like the situation of a complete terror and like um, enemies attacking left, right, and center, and people are dying left, right, and center. And even in that, in the middle of all of that, Allah Subhanahu wa Taala puts in the heart of the believer this tranquility, and they are able to have a small nap, right? This is the rahmah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And through this, in this way, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sometimes relieves a believer's stress in a miraculous way, right? It's almost like a little nap happened, and when you woke up, it's almost like as if like they felt as if like nothing has happened, like not that there is no problem, everything's good. And in their heart there was a tranquility that they didn't know what was happening whether the enemy is going to come back or not come back. But Allah Ta'ala put in their heart that no, enemy is not going to come back now, right? They had this thing in their heart. Like even for us, for example, when somebody is like, let's say, very upset, very sad, or somebody is grieving for something, let's say there has been a death in the family or something, then what do people say? That let this make this person sleep a little bit, then he or she will be okay. Like just let them sleep a little bit, right? So we understand intuitively that sleep has a lot of benefits like that. Even psychologists, when somebody has a lot of mental stress and something, sometimes they prescribe sleeping tablets. And the purpose of that is again because sleep regenerates a person's mind. It recalibrates, and it is a source of peace and comfort. And it is sleep is also a sign that our that we have a peace of mind, and there's a mental concentration that happens because of that, right? A person, on the other hand, when somebody has a lot of worries about something, they find it hard to sleep. Right? When they're really worried about something and the worry is not just going away, they're not able to sleep. When somebody's able to just sleep right away, then it's like they're not worried. They have given all their worries. They're not tense anymore, right? So a person who's not able to sleep and they're worried all the time, what happens to them? They cannot do anything with confidence or with determination because they are just worried so much. So in the case of an army which is there, for an army and the soldiers to get an opportunity during the war itself to rest and to utilize that rest effectively, that is very crucial. Right? So even like for example, in a lot of wars, the tactic that is used to demoralize the enemy is to not allow them to sleep or rest, like so that they're not able to refresh themselves and everything, right? So this is done as a tactic because sleep is so important. Even in the modern day battlefields, and even historically when we look at the war strategies and everything, the night before the battle is extremely important, right? The night before the battle, let's say the soldier should be well rested, their morale should be high. So what a lot of non-Muslim armies they do is before the night before the battle, they're engaged in a lot of drinking and a lot of uh, partying and a lot of moral boost up in that sense because they think that will boost their moral. So they're like they're like trash talking and they're all that stuff just to build up there because they build their morale through that. That's their means, right? But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told us that in the Battle of Badr, for example, in Surah Anfal, we will learn later that by the grace of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in the Battle of Badr, the night before the battle, Muslims had a very sound sleep. So they were when the very next day they were fully ready for the battle. They were fully ready. They were alert, right? They had a really good sleep at that time, right? And now Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us in the Battle of Uhud, during the battle. This is not like before the battle, this is like during the battle. And when the enemy is retreating and everything, although the emergency is still on, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala blessed them with this little sleep. And this is an opportunity given by the grace and mercy, by the rahmah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this also happens in the life of a believer also, that sometimes we are going through a very stressful situation, whether it's family, whether it's finances, whether it's like somebody sick or some relationship issues, no matter what problem we are going through, sometimes we are really tense. And then all of a sudden we're like, okay, how did I sleep? What happened? And just from somewhere sleep happens, right? Like we just fall asleep. And that is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That is a blessing to relieve our heart of that constant worrying and everything, and it refreshes us and we are able to come back to the situation. What also happened at that time was it also started raining a little bit, so all the dirt and the dust got washed away along with all the waswasa from the heart as well. It just went away, right? And so a believer, what happens, we learn this is what happens to a group of believers. As opposed to that, the other group that was there, what happened to them was they were worried. They were constantly worried, right? And that happens also in our life. The people who are not able to sleep, what's the cause? Why are they so worried? Because they have, instead of putting their matters in the hands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they have put their matters in their own hands, right? Like, what do I do? What am I going to do? What would I do in this? What is my thing in this? How am I going to take care of this? What is going to happen to me, right? It's all about like, I have to do this, I have to do this. Whereas a believer is like, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is there. I will do my part, but Allah ta'ala will take care, right? So somebody whose belief is not that strong, right? Their sleep goes away because like when they're very happy, then it's like, okay, I have so much to do, I can't sleep, right? Even when in a situation of like, let's say there's a marriage at home, or there's a childbirth, or there's some happy occasion, even then some people are not able to sleep because like, oh my God, I have to do this. They just, even that moment of happiness brings so much worry in the head, right? And if there is a time of distress, then also the sleep goes away, right? But a person whose iman is strong, who's able to put the matters in the hands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they keep taking these light naps here and there, right? Even 10 minutes, they have a solitude, they lie down and they feel fresh after that, right? Because that freshens them up and everything, because they are able to let go. They're able to let go that this is in Allah's hands. My Rabb is there. My Rabb is taking care of everything. I'm in good hands. Alhamdulillah, right? So, but the other group, what Allah Ta'ala is telling us about this other group who was worried. What were they worried about? What was they worried, right? So while some Muslims were steadfast, their faith was strong, they had no doubt about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the messenger and their deen and everything, right? They were pleased, right? Raditu billahi rabba wa bil islami deena wa bi Muhammadin sallallahu alayhi wa sallam rasulahu wa nabiyya. Right? We say, yeah, and this is one of the sunnah du'as, one of the morning and evening adhkar that we say, that I'm pleased with Allah as my Lord. I'm pleased with Islam as my deen, and I'm pleased with Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam as our prophet and our messenger, right? And that is a sign of a strong faith. But these other people, what had happened was that one, they were worried about their own selves, meaning they were like, okay, what if the enemy attacks from here? And what if I'm killed? And what if happens here? What if I get hurt and everything? They were worried and worried upon worried, right? They continued to worry about their own lives, even though enemy had withdrawn, right? So they were so focused on themselves, right? So first thing is they focused on themselves. Then they were having thoughts about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that were not true, that were from the time of Jahiliyyah. They were nursing some misgivings about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. These people claimed to be Muslims. Now again, the people that we're talking about are not the 300 that had left with Abdullah bin Ubay, right? So when the Muslims started from Medina towards Uhud, they were 1,000 in number. And then midway, Abdullah bin Ubay and 300 people with him left the army. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala doesn't even address them, right? Those people were out, and they are not even worthy of addressing, right? So they were out, they were gone. But even now amongst these 700, not all have the same level of iman, and that happens in our life too. We will not have the same iman all the time. Our own iman will go up and down, and people around us will also have different kinds of iman, different levels of iman at different times in their lives. And that but still there are people of iman, right? So we don't, it doesn't take them out of iman. But what happens is the weaknesses can happen. A believer can be weak. Some weaknesses can come in the heart of a believer, right? So it is not if we ever feel anything like that, it's not a time to doom ourselves that, okay, nothing can happen. I'm like this, I'm like, nor if we come across somebody else who has certain thoughts or says something, then we try to correct and we try to help, but we don't pass judgments, right? Because these people, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was pleased with all of them. All these Sahabas, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was pleased with them, but there was a weakness in a group of them. Now, they claimed to be Muslims, but their concept of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, of the attributes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, of the dealings of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and with people, the dealings of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with life, they were they were still those like the dark times of Jahiliyyah, like the time of before Islam, right? So, and why does someone make these? What were their thoughts? They thought that what, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has left us. Like, why is this coming to us? Why is the harm coming to us? Why did we go through this? Why did we have to go through this? Was it the right thing that we came to this Islam and we are coming this and we came here and everything, and then like why is this happening to us, right? Is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protecting us? Like, are we on the right side and everything, right? So they're having all these thoughts about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala which were not correct. And why does someone make these bad assumptions about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? A'udhu billah, a'udhu billah, a'udhu billah, right? That, like, like, I did so much for Islam, I left my home, I came here and everything, and look what I got. Look, like, so many people died, and now those enemies, they are out on the loose. What if, like, there's nobody in Medina? In Medina, there are just those 300 people who left. There might be many, most of them munafiqeen anyway. So if enemy attacks, my home is open. What about my wife and children there at home, right? Who's there to protect them? What is going to happen, right? Did I make a good choice by coming here? Should I have listened to them, right? And so they were thinking all these thoughts like, I didn't deserve this. I was doing this for the sake of Allah, but like, why did Allah leave me? Right? So the all these bad thoughts that were coming into their mind about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Why do these thoughts, and that happens now too. When we go through any stressful situation in life, do we start thinking that Alhamdulillah ala kulli hal, that or do we start thinking, okay, why am I going through this? Why is Allah Ta'ala doing this to me? Right? Why is everybody else has such an easy life and I have such a hard life? Right? Someone makes bad assumptions about Allah. So what is the core of it? Why do they do that? Because, and through this one word Jahiliyyah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us, Dhanna Jahiliyyah, that this is a thought of Jahiliyyah, because a person makes these thoughts when they forget that we are slaves and he is the Rabb. We are the Abd and he is the Rabb. We are the slaves and he is the master. We don't deserve anything. We are not entitled to anything. Whatever Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives us is his gift. It's his grace, is his rahmah. Right? Just by being a human being, I don't deserve any that I should be provided for. I should always be safe. I should not go through any hardships. None of my body joints should hurt. Every person should behave the best with me. I should have all my finances met all the time. I should never have to work hard. It doesn't work like that, right? Anything that I'm getting from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is a blessing. I don't deserve it. It's a rahmah from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's a blessing. It's a fadl of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? When we have this attitude, then even when hardships come, then these negative thoughts won't come. Then the waswasa won't be able to overtake us, right? Then shaitan will not be able to impact us. And what were these people saying with their those people who had these thoughts? And again, these thoughts, nobody could know these thoughts except Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is giving us an x-ray inside the hearts. And why is he giving us the x-ray inside the hearts? So that we can do our own x-ray of the heart and we can see what is going on in our hearts. And then we can correct check ourselves and recalibrate ourselves, not for the purpose of we check ourselves like, oh my god, I'm a loser. No, 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 not like that. It's like when we see this thing, we know what medicine to take. When we see a disease, when we take an x-ray, when we find do some diagnosis, when we find out, we do some ultrasound, we do some MRIs, we do some tests, blood tests, and the purpose is to find out if there's anything wrong, and if there's anything wrong, what can we do to correct it, right? So the reason that we are learning here is Allah, that's why Allah Ta'ala is showing us that, and this we are learning that life lesson from this. And but what were these people saying? Going ahead, what were these people saying from their own mouths? What were they saying was, do we have any say in the matter? Is anybody going to listen to us? Right? So like we said, those 300 people had already left. If they would have come, they would have caused fitna, right? They had gone, but this small group now, still of this person called, one of them, for example, was Mi'anab bin Khushair, right? And people of his tribe, they had this thing in their heart that, but they could not leave earlier. Like they had, maybe some people came for nationalistic reasons, the tribal reasons and everything, not really for with ikhlas for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? They stayed. But when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave sleep to the Sahabas who had ikhlas, he did not give the sleep to these people. Like, so not everybody experiences this sleep. Those people who were steadfast in their iman, Allah Ta'ala gave it to them. But this other group who had bad thoughts in their heart and who were saying from their mouth, like, is anybody going to listen to us? Right? Nobody listens to us here, around here, right? And everything. What they were thinking was, when they're saying this, right? What are they implying is that basically, Audhu Billah, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's messenger, he takes arbitrary decisions and he did not give regard to our views. Like we had this views and we are experienced older people, and he did not listen to us. Rather, he listened to some youngsters who are very like enthusiastic and who are just like they don't know anything. They're just youngsters. They are just high on youth and everything. And they said, no, we want to go out on a fight. And the Prophet agreed to go out and fight, and he never listened to us. Right. So if he had listened to us, we would not be this thing, like nobody listens to us around here. Right. So they are saying these things as if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's messengers takes arbitrary decisions. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's messenger, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam's decisions were through the guidance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then there was a hikmah in his decisions. There was a way that he would take his decisions. It was not just like because he felt like it, right? Because there was a reason for it, right? So, but these people were this group of people who had these worry and who were saying these things. They were basically bothered about themselves and their own lives more than they were bothered about the Prophet ﷺ and his safety and Islam, right? So their thoughts were about their own selves much more, so, right? So when the tides of the war changed, then the second group of people, the hypocrisy which was there in their hearts also came out and became evident, right? So the things in their heart start to come out. So, for example, we can think of it like this. Let's say there are four people in a car, right, and they're going on a drive or something. It's a long drive, and one person is driving. So that person who's driving has to focus on the road and who has to be alert and everything all the time and everything, while other passengers, they are having fun, they're like eating, they're joking, sometimes somebody's falling asleep, waking up, but this person who's driving, he's all the time like just he can't do all of that, he can't doze off, he can't do anything, he has to be alert. And but so he's sacrificing that time while others are having fun, but nobody's thanking him while he's driving, while he's doing all this effort. But then all of a sudden there's a bump that comes and all the passengers says, what happened? Did you not look at the road? What happened? Right? So when any musibat comes, when any hardship comes to a group of people, it brings with it, and that is the nature of human beings. It brings with it a lot of mashware from people, a lot of takeed from people, a lot of pointing fingers by people. Okay, you did not do this, you did this, and you did not do this, and everything, right? When it's something good happens, they're like, oh, we did a good thing, right? When something does not go too well, then everybody loves to point fingers at somebody else, while that person was initially doing a lot of sacrifices, but nobody brings that into account, right? It's very easy for us to behave like that. So now when the tides are changed, so these people are basically pointing fingers at that they are saying this, that nobody listens to us and everything, but their meaning inside the what is the core of this, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is getting right to the core. What is their statement coming from? They're blaming the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and they're having bad thoughts about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So Allah ta'ala is telling us what is going on inside, right? So these people were happy to be behind Muslims until it was a winning side, that okay, they're going to get the war booty and this and that. But when it became challenging, then there was everybody's running here and there, and they're worried about their own selves, right? Uh, Ahammat hum anfusuhum. They are worried about themselves, right? And why is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala telling us all of this ayah and all of this situation? And why is Allah ta'ala teaching them? And what is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala teaching them through this ayah, the Sahabas, and by extension to all of us? He wants to take this hum out of them, and by extension, all of us, right? That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants to take this hum out of us, this worry out of us, right? And how do we take that worry out of us when we have situations of worrying and everything? That we don't stay in our own selves. We don't keep thinking about just ourselves. The more we think of just our own selves, me, myself, and mine, the more the worry, sorry, will increase, right? The more we focus on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the messenger, and we learn about the names of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the attributes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, who is Allah, how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala behaves with his servants, and he is the Rabb and I am the Abd, the more that that worry will go away, that okay, my Rabb, whatever he's decreeing is going to be good for me. Alhamdulillah ala kulli hal, right? All in all times there is praise for, and there is thanks for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? So um, when the heart has this problem, then there is hum for a hum about the self, and there is bad thoughts about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? That why did he give us so harsh orders to come send us to the battlefield? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had to, why did he send us to the battlefield? We could have just have prayed and everything. Why do we have to go to war and stuff like that, right? And along with this one, um, for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it is the done also comes with the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that he brought us here to get us killed and everything. We are just like 700 people, and these are 3,000 people, so we are here to be slaughtered, right? There's nothing, nobody can save us, nothing's going to happen to us. And why did he do that, right? So they thought if the battle were offered staying in Medina, they would not have been killed. right? Like they would say things like, we don't even know how to fight battles, we are farmers, this is what kind of a thing is this, right? That maybe he's so emotional, he just comes in the he just listened to everybody who says very thing, and he just listened to them and brought us here and everything, right? And this hypocrisy, this kind of hypocrisy also came out later in the groups of Muslims at the time of the Battle of the Book later on in the Sira, right? So basically, these people were like, what is going to happen now? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has left us, and they were being hopeless in the help of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And being hopeless uh, about the help of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, no matter how tough the situation is, that also takes somebody towards hypocrisy, right? The having bad thoughts about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the way of the munafiqeen. May Allah Ta'ala protect us from that, right? And may Allah Ta'ala help us to catch it in the bud and to correct it, right? And and we know that when anything wrong happens, then people point fingers at the leaders and everything. But um, wherever there is no Islam, or wherever the Islam is not strong, then Jahiliyyah will happen, right? And we can call it whatever Jahiliyyat, we can call it like whatever name we give it. But those thoughts, those things, we can call it modernism, we can call it advanced culture, we can call it feminism, we can call it whatever we like. But it is Jahiliyyah. What Allah SWT is telling us, whatever is not Islam is going to be Jahiliyyah. It's going to show its way of Jahiliyyah sooner or later, right? So these people are saying now we are not going to be saved now. We are just so small in number and everything. And they're saying like, is anybody ever going to listen to us? So another thing of munafiq is, another trouble of the munafiq is that they have this gham that nobody's listening to them, because they have importance of themselves so much, right? And even it happens in families today, like by young or even by old, when when there is something, when there's something polluted in the heart, then even the suggestions that come are are polluted too, right? And so there's another meaning is that they're saying that will we go back from this battlefield alive today? We don't think we're going to go back alive, right? And so they're saying like, what is going to happen, and like there's nothing is in our hands and everything, or what is it is supposed to be in our hands, basically that's what they're saying. But that you don't listen to me and everything. But what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells the Prophet sallallahu to reply to them is that no, rather, kul innal amra kullahu lillah, all the matter, indeed the matter, all of it is in the hands of Allah. And this phrase, innal amra kullahu lillah, this comes from iman. When somebody has strong iman, then only they can say that all matters are in the hands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? And the Prophet ﷺ, the Prophet of Allah, he does everything by the will and permission of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala only. Another meaning is that Qul innal amra kullahu lillah. Another meaning here is that success or defeat, all of it is in the hands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So he does whatever he wills, right? So what were they hiding in their chest that they were not revealing? This because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that they're saying something, but they're hiding. They're saying this that about the matter in our hands and everything, but what they're hiding in their hearts, right? But it is being revealed in the Quran, right? And by revealing in the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made it known to the people until the end of times. And through that, we know that nifaq doesn't stay hidden. Nifaq doesn't stay hidden. Sooner or later, it comes out in the open. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala brings it out, right? Whether in the life of the person itself or after their death, doesn't matter. But it does come out. So what we should do is we should not say things that we don't mean, right? And if something we don't like something, then don't say anything about it. Just be quiet about it, right? We don't have to say no, it's good when we don't actually like something, right? So we have to protect ourselves from even minor cases of hypocrisy, right? So these people said that if we were asked and our opinion was taken in any matters, then we would not have been killed, right? If you had asked us, if you had followed what we told you, we had stayed in Medina. Now, the reason of the Prophet ﷺ to stay in Medina was different. The reason that these people were giving to stay in Medina was different. They were scared. They were not courageous. They wanted to protect themselves. The Prophet ﷺ was thinking as a military commander. But then when a lot of people said that they want to go out and fight, the Prophet ﷺ said, okay, fine. After the Mashwara, he said, okay, we'll go out. And then once the decision was made, we learned before that then even when some people said, no, we should reconsider, the Prophet ﷺ said, no, when a prophet wears his armor, then they cannot go back now. We have to go, right? But these people, what they were saying was, see, you didn't listen to us. That's why all of this happened. If we were in our homes, then this would not have happened, right? And sometimes when some harm comes, we see that some other people are getting happy by it, right? And and they are getting happy by it because they're envious of the one who was given responsibility, because they're jealous of that person giving the responsibility. And that's why when some harm comes, they're like, see, that person doesn't know how to take good decisions, right? Because of them, all this thing is happening and everything. And what the Prophet ﷺ is being told, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells him, Kul, say, meaning they're misgiving, that they're having the thoughts that they're having are not correct, they're ill-founded. Even if you did not come out here and you were in your homes, but it was time for you to die, you would have walked out of your home and come to the place of your death on your own. That is meaning that the written command of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has written the qadar, and the qadar of Allah would have taken effect, and your death would have taken place at the very spot that it was destined to take place. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has written down the time and the place of everyone's death. And each one of us will die at the time and at the place where we are supposed to die. The matters of life and death, they don't depend on our efforts. They are governed by the divine decree of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right? So anybody who's destined to die, they will reach their place to die. Right? So they will reach the place that they were there, madaji'ihim, their place to die, the place where a person's killed or a person falls down or a person goes for a final rest or something, right? So and we see that in this life too. Like, for example, we had this incident of these millionaire people some time back who went into the submarine, and they went to see the Titanic and everything, and they died inside in the water in the submarine. Now their death was written in the ocean underneath there. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had decreed that. So they went to their own place of death at that time and they died there, right? So uh, and so many incidents we hear that a person didn't board the train, and then the train crashed or something. That person was supposed to live. Another person who took their seat and everything died in their place. It was somebody was not even going to board that train, but they exchanged their tickets with somebody else and they ended up passing away. Their death was destined for that time, right? And why did Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala do all of this? Right? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us that the purpose of all of this was so that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala could test your chest, could test your hearts. Do you have any jealousy? Do you have any boghz? Do you have any nifaq? Right? Do you have jealousy? Do you have ill feelings? Do you have hypocrisy? And if there is anything like that, He wants it to purify whatever is in your hearts. Now, He wanted to test, meaning Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala already knows what is in the heart, but He wanted the people to be able to diagnose themselves what is there in their hearts, and then He wanted to purify whatever is in the hearts. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows very well what is in the hearts, right? So for example, and why does Allah ta'ala do this? Like, why do these fitne, do these hardships and these things happen? Like, if we think of a very simple example, when let's say we are cooking rice, what we do is, before we start cooking the rice, we take the bad kernels of rice and we remove them, right? So what happens with war and hardships is the same thing. The people who are not committed, when war happens, when people are killed a lot, when a lot of hardships are there, then people who are not committed and who are not truthful, they start leaving. And we see those people changing their stance and siding with the enemy, or blaming the believers, that it's your fault. Maybe you did this. Maybe if you had done this, this would not have happened, or something, or their iman shaking and everything, right? So it kind of brings out whatever is there, right? And it also shows very clearly who are the mukhlis people, who are the people who have ikhlas, who are the like the sahabas whose heart was very firm. Their iman was presented in a very beautiful way because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave them tranquility and everything happened, right? At the time of musibah, the akhlaq comes forward. It is shown, the akhlaq comes forward, the ikhlas come forward, right? And it also makes us strong. It also makes us strong. And at that time, it might seem like this is so hard. People are being killed and so much hardships are happening and everything. But as the Muslims of that time, they had certain weaknesses. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala put them through a situation that would bring these weaknesses into the open. They didn't know they had these weaknesses. Other people didn't know they had these weaknesses, but Allah knew all along. And so He put them through a certain situation through which these weaknesses came out in the open, so that He may test their intentions and everything, and then so that He may free them of those weaknesses. When those weaknesses come out in the open, He might free them, He might cure them of that. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is well acquainted with the diseases of the hearts. He also knows how to cure them. Allah is the only one who knows what is in the hearts. We might be sitting next to another person, but none of us knows what is going on in the hearts of the other person. Only thing we do is we make the best informed the guesses based on the what the other person's saying and doing, right? We don't know what is in the heart of anybody. Only Allah knows, and He knows every disease of every heart, and He also knows how to cure them, right? In fact, every trial that we go through is what we deserve to be in the sense that that is what has the potential to take us to a higher level, and that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has custom written for each one of us, because He knows that I can excel in this. I have the potential to excel in this. That's why I have been put through this situation. You have the potential to excel in the other situation. That's why you have been put through that situation, right? So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is our Rabb, and what an amazing Rabb He is. What a most loving Rabb He is. Like, um, like He does good for us even when we are in tough situations. He provides for us, He guides us, He protects us, and sometimes He punishes us. Sometimes He disciplines us, like a mother. Sometimes when a mother uh, punishes a child, that okay, you are not going to do this, or no, you're going to have this. It's not that the mother hates the child. The mother punishes the child because she wants to make the child better. She wants to discipline the child, right? When people go through the hard military training before the war, the military training is the hardest sort of trainings, physically very taxing. You have to get up early in the morning. It's like sometimes you might be like, why is the general punishing me so much? Why do I have to do so much? But all that hardship prepares the army person for something much bigger. Before, without that training, they can't do all of what they were supposed to do, right? So the general kind of prepares them, right? So our Rabb, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is our Rabb. He is our nurturer. He created us. And anybody who creates something, we don't spoil something we have created ourselves. Allah Ta'ala created us, right? And He takes care of us. He maintains us. He provides for us. He does everything for us. He also does our tarbiyah. He also does our tarbiyah. When there is anything there inside of us that needs to be corrected, then He corrects us through different means. And sometimes hardships are a means of that. Right? So a believer, a true believer, when something that happened, may Allah Ta'ala make us of them, that a true believer surrenders to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and he says that Allah is the best of planners. I trust Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. My tawakkul is in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I have full trust that even though this is hard, this is something from my Rabb, and I submit to it. I submit to it because it is His decree, and Therefore, I submit to it. Also, what it tells us, what was happening with those Sahabas at that time is that they had messed up. We talked about that. They had messed up. But when somebody messes up, yet and at the same time after that they seek forgiveness from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they feel guilty about it, they seek forgiveness from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they make a conscious decision that they will not repeat the same mistakes, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala also sends a sense of calm and a means to move on, how to move on in life, right? And this is just to conclude, this is a big difference between how people react with us and how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala deals with us, right? So if people, for example, let's say I do something wrong against somebody, and I hurt them or something, and then I'm guilty, I feel sorry and everything. I go to meet them, I say like, I'm sorry, I did this, I shouldn't have done this and everything, and they're like, yeah, yeah, okay, and everything. And it might take me many times to meet them and this them, because as people, what we do is, when somebody is even apologizing, when they have done some mistake and now they're even apologizing, we want them to be miserable for a little while. Maybe stay miserable for 2 years, then okay, then okay, maybe I'll think of forgiving you, right? Then we can move on and everything, right? But that is not how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala deals with us, right? With this situation of the Uhud, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is teaching us that these people, they when they sought forgiveness, when the believers, they sought forgiveness from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they did not want to repeat that. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent calm over the believers right away. He sent calm over immediate calm right away during the battlefield itself. It was not even delayed. So one thing for us is whenever we mess up in our life, and we all will, we can and we all will, then whenever we do mess up, then we turn to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and we should have this full certainty in our hearts that my Rabb is so forgiving that when I have turned to Him with a clear heart, with a full commitment that Ya Allah, I'm not going to repeat this mistake, and I seek your forgiveness with the guilt, with the nadama in my heart, then inshallah Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will forgive me right away, immediately. There's no waiting period for the forgiveness. He'll forgive me right away, and He'll give me means to carry on as well, right? He'll give me means to carry on as well. And on the other hand, if I find in my heart things like jealousy, things like bogus, things like bad feelings for another person, or for the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or something starts cropping up, some waswasa starts coming, or some signs of nifaq starts coming, then it is a good time for me to assess myself and to try to cure myself of those. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us of those people who are able to take lessons from the Quran, who are able to learn from whatever Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala teaches us, who are able to look at history in perspective in terms of, and who are able to look at the current events and history and whatever Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is teaching us through everything, through the signs in the Quran and through the signs in the kainat around us. And to able to make us more and more pleasing to Him day by day, to put our full trust in Him, and never to lose hope, and always to understand that whatever hardships come, they have a reason. There is a reason. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has a plan. There's nothing that happens around us that is ever, anything that is in Allah's control is never out of control. Anything that is in Allah's control is never out of control, and everything is in Allah's control. There is nothing that is out of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's power or control. So a believer can, even though the situations might be super stressful, a believer can relax. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will give drowsiness, will give sleep sometimes at times, and be like, how could I sleep at this time? I was so tense. And yet we will wake up fresh. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant us that. May Allah ta'ala grant us tamanina. May Allah ta'ala grant us itminan. May Allah ta'ala grant us that peace, that tranquility, that calmness to be able to handle situations. Because none of us can handle anything if we are not calm. When we start to be hyper about something, hormonal about something, too emotional about something, then we can't do even our own best judgment. When we are calm, we are able to do better. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us calm people. May Allah ta'ala protect us and prevent us from jahiliyyah, and take care of us. And just like Allah Ta'ala united us as sisters in Islam in this world, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reunite us as sisters in Islam on the day of judgment under the shade of His throne, when there will be no shade except His, and then once again in Jannatul Firdaus. May Allah Ta'ala accept our coming together. Any goodness that came from the talk today was from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, as He is the owner of all goodness. Any mistakes were for myself, as I'm a human being and open to mistake. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgive and still accept our coming together. ربنا تقبل منا إنك أنت السميع العليم. آمين يا أرحم الراحمين. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. سبحانك اللهم أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك 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 ونتوب إليك.